Welcome to Leads and Leverage, Real Estate Team Leader Lounge, where success in real estate meets passion-driven leadership. I'm your host, Tyler Gibson. I'm an entrepreneur, real estate team leader, and investor, and I'm thrilled to have you join us in the ultimate hub for real estate excellence. In this exclusive lounge, we're diving deep into strategies, tactics, and stories that fuel the success of real estate teams. Whether you're a seasoned pro looking to take your leadership skills to new heights or an aspiring entrepreneur ready to build your own powerhouse team, this podcast is your go-to resource for insider insights and actionable advice. Get ready to hear from top experts, industry pioneers, and real-world achievers who are making waves in the real estate world. We'll explore the best practices, share invaluable lessons learned, and equip you with tools you need to thrive in today's competitive market. Welcome to the lounge where leaders are made and success is earned. Come on in to the Real Estate Team Leader Lounge.
I've been in real estate just shy of 20 years. Before that, I was in commercial general contracting. Started out in Miami in a high-end kind of section of Miami. Put my license with a friend because I just wanted to be very kind of autonomous. Got my broker license at a year and 1 day because that's what you're allowed to do in Florida at the time, and opened my brokerage up and had a small boutique bricks and mortar brokerage for about 5 years. Went through the whole recession, which I was pretty proud of, being a relatively new agent and a bricks and mortar office. I did that with a partner. And then Sotheby's came to Miami, and I fell in love with that Sotheby's brand and ended up joining Sotheby's. And I was with that brokerage, that brand, for about 8 years. First year as an agent, then middle 4, I became the executive vice president of one of the largest franchises of Sotheby's, which has a lot to do with team leadership, because much of my job was literally being like the mediator between team leaders and team members. And this was, 10, 15 years ago when team structure wasn't as big as it is now. So it was kind of a little bit of the Wild West. So I did a lot of that for those 4 years, went back into sales. I moved up to Northeast Florida, stayed with the Sotheby's brand, went back up to Northeast Florida, started my own team at the time, moved to Compass. I was with Compass for 3 years. And there, as far as team leaders, I co-founded a team leaders group within Compass and grew that to 900 team leaders, where we were able to kind of discuss behind closed doors all these questions that team leaders come up against, right? A whole host of questions. And I did that where we had kind of masterminds twice a month for the whole 3 years. And then I joined EXP just shy of 3 years ago. My team moved with me each time from Sotheby's to Compass to EXP. In the last 2 years or so, my love has shifted a lot more towards training, teaching, education at a bigger level. And so I've had to undergo a big change in my own team, which used to be the coffee team. And it was much more the traditional, I'm the rainmaker, I'm the face of the team and everything like that. So I've actually completely rebranded, and I call us the unteamed team, which is very different than a lot of other things. Because I wanted to get my name out of the team name. I think that's one thing that every team leader should think about when they're branding themselves is, unless they just love production to the point where they want to stay in production for the rest of their lives, they should really think about not having their name in the team. I know it's an ego play at the beginning and you think it's just you, but you're going to grow to a place that it's probably not just you. So anyway, we rebranded to the Gorgeous Florida Homes Network. We're broadening ourselves through Florida. And I even wish I hadn't even said Florida in there, that it was just the Gorgeous Homes Network, and made a brand that I could take to different states. So who knows, maybe we'll have to rebrand again. But I've also coached for Real Estate B School, which is for team leaders. So I have a lot of background on helping team leaders put things together. And there is no one size fits all. There's like a gazillion, just like I said, there's a brokerage for every agent and an agent for every brokerage. The team leader model is the same way. There's a team leader model for every team leader and a model for every. So I love this topic. I think it's a very important topic because a lot of people still kind of make it up as they go along. And if you could just kind of find somebody who has a similar kind of path as you and try to pick their brain and learn from them, so you don't do the things they wish they didn't do and do the things they realize later on worked, you could kind of shortchange sometimes it's very kind of messy in the middle, right? As a team leader for a lot of reasons. But anyway, that's my story and here we are.
Well, thank you so much for that. I've got a couple of different questions in there and a comment about not putting your name in your team name. When I was getting ready to start my team, I was talking with my then broker, and I was asking her, what she thought about team names. And she said, don't put your name in it. And I said, why? And she said, well, because I was talking to the broker of the franchise, which was JP and Associates, or JPAR, which that's the guy, the owner, JP, I forget his name. He put his name in his brokerage name. And he was telling this local broker who owned the franchise not to put your name in your team name or in your brokerage name, because for the very same reason, it somewhat starts to limit you. And so
it massively limits you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't listen. I still made it the Gibson Property Group. When I moved to EXP, I was told that name wasn't allowed here in the state of Florida. So we've changed it. Now we're just the GPG team. When people ask me what that means, my response is, that's a great question. What do you think it means? Because technically it doesn't mean anything. So
right. The other reason why it's and I tell people this all the time when they're just starting teams, and 9 out of 10 don't listen. Again, because when you're a top producer, while you're a top producer, before you have a team, it is, of course, all about you. And you've worked so hard to create that brand, and you've worked so hard to create that identity, and you've worked so hard to do all of that. You feel you have to have that because that's what you're selling, right? You don't realize what happens is top talent, other agents often don't want to join a name of a team when it's a person. They do not want to be seen as like a B-level player. And if you're a listing agent, which I am a predominantly listing agent, I also started to find that my sellers would think if it wasn't me, they were getting like the B team. And that wasn't the case at all. Often those people had, equal skills, if not better skills than me at different things. And so that's why I rebranded to the Gorgeous Florida Homes Network, because top talent has kind of flocked to that because it was something they could get behind, that they took ownership of as well. Like we're all kind of equal, and we can brand ourselves, we can get ourselves out there. But also sellers never think anybody's the B team because we're all part of this network. And it's something that, could be sellable or transferable, or it can outlive my interest in managing the team. So I tell people all the time, it is so hard to get people to realize that.
And I love that little nugget in there about it's something you could sell, right? It's something because it's not attached to your name. Somebody else could come in and buy your book of business at some point in the future and just continue to operate it behind the scenes because they don't need your name, because your name's not attached to it. They don't need your name.
The key to that, that's one of the main trainings from Real Estate B School, which, I've been a client of, and then, like I said, later a coach, and now kind of a fan of. First, that's one of their big things is how do you make a team that's not a brokerage, but a team, such a well-oiled machine with all the assets, all the everythings, that it is sellable. And a big part of that, just like if you sell any business, a big part of it means that can't have the business operating that's contingent on a person being the one there. Like you've got to get it where that person can step back and that thing will continue to move forward. So it's super important if that's somebody's goal or vision or wish, which many team leaders it is. But at the end of the day, I've seen very few people successfully do it.
Well, it's hard. I think the hardest part about trying to sell a real estate business is For a lot of us, we feel like the value is in our database. Well, that maybe there's some value there, but that database is only valuable if I have a system that somebody else can walk right into to monetize that database, right? Otherwise, if I just go, okay, here are, 100,000 names, well, that's not helpful. They have no idea, even if it's well documented in a CRM, even that is still not helpful. You have to already have a system that you can just easily transfer where there's automatically
and a system that's taking you out of the mix.
Yep.
That they are already used to. Like I said, with Gorgeous Florida Homes, I've been pulling myself out of the mix now for 2 years. So in positioning everything, we, us, and really trying to pull my own identity out of it. And it's also easier for teams to sell to a partner within the team rather than, I very, very rarely heard of some outside somebody coming in and wanting to buy up a team. I mean, honestly. But if you're operating with a partner and you guys plan, say 1 to 2 to 3 years transition, that's often a more viable path. And then you kind of taper that payment down over time. So,
yeah, I like that. Great idea. I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm nowhere near being close to selling to anybody on my team, but I'll keep it in mind. So tell me a little bit about.
Keep it in mind if you find somebody.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your team today. I know that you got your name's not involved in it. How big is your team today? And then at some point, I'd really like to learn how you talked a team of people into following you to multiple different brokerages along the way. Yeah.
Okay, so let's break that down. So the Gorgeous Florida Homes Network, we are, I don't have the exact numbers, 20 to 25 people in Florida, mostly along the East Coast. I'm here in Northeast Florida, so at least a little more than half are in Northeast Florida, and then the rest are along the coast down all the way to Miami. And we are, like I said, an unteamed team. So that's a very different kind of split structure. It's more, we have shared branding, we have shared tools. I do a lot of training inside the group, shared referrals, things like that. And like I said, it's allowed me to attract a lot of top talent. Even, I am at EXP. We have at least 5 people who have joined our team, who've reached out and wanted to join the team, who were already at EXP. So it's not just people that I've attracted. It's people who, and these are top talent, like really top talent agents, but they were kind of by themselves, which a lot of times top producers are. They're by themselves and they don't want to be a part of a team, but they love the concept of being part of a network that has a bunch of kind of shared marketing, shared assets, shared culture. And that's kind of how we're structured. Like I said, I kind of wish I had not named it the Gorgeous Florida Homes Network and maybe just the Gorgeous Homes Network, because there's been a lot of interest from people in other states. So we're not there yet. Maybe at some point in the future, but I enjoy it much more. And then we have TCs, bringing on some VAs for marketing that the agents can use, who are already trained up for what they need to do. So it just makes it a very easy kind of plug and play system for the agents who join us. And then what was the other question?
Well, I'll get.
How did I get the team members to? Yeah. When we moved from Sotheby's to Compass, I think we were 6 or 7 agents. At that time, it was still the Coffey team. So at that time, it was still that rainmaker down type of structure. Mm-hmm. And both when I moved from Sotheby's to Compass and then from Compass to EXP, I made the decision of what was right for me. I did all my due diligence of what was right for me. And then I made the announcement and I explained to the agents, this is why I'm making this decision. This is why it's right for me. I want to go over with you guys what it means to you so that you can decide if it's the right move for you as well. If it is not the right move for you, I totally respect that and appreciate that. And I will help you if you want to stay at that current brokerage. I'll help facilitate that for you. If you want to look for other options, I'll help facilitate that for you. And both times, everybody came both times. And I think part of that was I didn't say, I made the decision for the team and this is what we're doing. I presented it like, I've made a decision. I needed to make some decisions for me. This is why I'm doing it for me. This is what I see might be valuable to you. But if you want to stay here, I will totally facilitate that for you as well. And I just think that the team members appreciated that I was also just trying to think what's right for them and giving them autonomy to make their own decisions.
Yeah.
You know.
I love that. So
yeah.
when you were still the coffee team, you were the rainmaker. What did that look? Were you generating leads, or were you just giving listings to people after you won them? What did that look like in terms of, being the rainmaker?
Since I've mostly dealt in, generally speaking, the higher price points, much more even as the coffee team. It was not necessary. I've never been a lead generation as a value proposition to my team members was never what I offered. What I offered was always branding, training, at that time, really good administrative support, like a super well-trained, I called her the Wizard of Oz. And that was all part of being at the team, was you could plug into that. You had really great training, because I've been training agents. I was a trainer for Sotheby's for years and years and years. I have my own training. So a lot of the team members wanted to join because of that. They still wanted to be their own agents. And then I had a few agents that I would do my own listings with. I was predominantly a listing agent. So I had a few agents that we worked really well together, and we would do my listings together. So it didn't just fall on me.
Right.
So that's how that looked. Very rarely. I mean, if there was some inbound leads that happened or inbound referrals that happened, but I always made it very clear from the start, that's not my value proposition. I'm not one of these big lead, and it's much harder to do at the high price points too, to be a lead driven as a team. Yeah.
Well, because it's much harder to generate, a $2 million buyer, through a lead gen system than it is to
right. And then you've got to be able to convert that buyer. It's a different animal. I don't think that lead gen system that works for middle price points works nearly as well in the upper price points.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So why did you start a team in the first place?
I think probably the same reason most people start a team is you're doing well. You've got more business than you can possibly handle on your own. So what do you do with all that extra business? What do you do with that knowledge? Because now you've got knowledge of how things work, and you've kind of bumbled your way through, figured it out to whatever degree. You want to share that with other people. I think the days of real estate where, every agent kind of did everything, I think that is a very inefficient way of being. And thankfully, most of real estate industry has grown out of that, where you don't have so many single agents doing everything, doing the marketing, doing the lead gen, doing the admin, doing the sales, all the things. It's not an efficient way of being. And then no matter how good you are at something, you're going to be doing things that's not your strong suit, that drain you, that pull you down and take time away from whatever your strong suit is. Like my strong suit is or was marketing for listings, training, systems, just marketing in general. That's what I love. Negotiations, but all that other stuff, that's not my strong suit. So I think in the beginning, just like everybody else, probably got an admin, really worked together well. My admin has just now kind of graduated out of, but we're together for 8 strong years. Really, she was my backbone. I could just say, hey, I got this new listing, and that was it. Like, I didn't have to worry about it. She just took care of everything. And then other people, just like I'm sure all the other team leaders, people start to ask, especially if they're newer in the business, they see your success, they see what you're doing, and they're like, hey, do you have a team? Can I join you? So I think I I created a team just like everybody else. It's funny, when I first moved from Miami to Northeast Florida, again, Sotheby's to Sotheby's, different franchise, but same brand. I was putting everything out, all my marketing, the coffee team. It was just me. And I remember like some of the older crotchety agents in the office, like, the coffee team, who's that? It's just you. And I was like, I'm going to be. So it was kind of the positioning. Even back then, I knew I didn't want to be positioned as just a solo person to clients, to sellers, so that they wouldn't expect that I was going to be doing every single thing. And that's one reason why I also ultimately, 6 years later, shifted from the coffee team to Gorgeous Florida Homes, also to properly position us with sellers, with buyers, and then with other agents. Yeah,
I love that. When you were still rainmaking, and I know that you said that you weren't a lead generator, that was never your value proposition. What was your pitch? Did you do active recruiting, or was it kind of an organic?
It was almost all. It was almost all organic. People within the brokerage seeing what I was doing. I became the number one agent in my brokerage relatively quickly for moving from Miami to Northeast Florida. I was single, still am single, and in a new town, so I didn't know anybody, so I just put my head down and worked. And, in a very short period, my goal was to hit the top 10 in my MLS within 3 years, and I made that within 2 years. And I think a lot of people, I just brought that Miami hustle of just, get it done. And so there was people in the brokerage who just saw that, and they're like, wow, I want that kind of success too. And so it was mostly organic. And then for the most part, the same people stayed, the whole time. Now it's a little bit different now that we've morphed into the Gorgeous Homes network, because it's no longer that rainmaker type thing, right, or pyramid type figurehead thing. It's more, we're all skilled agents. We're just sharing things. We're learning together. We're rising up together, it is a different structure.
Yeah. And so what do you currently offer to your team that they wouldn't get if they were solo? I know that you said marketing and training, and you've got an admin. How do you position that to somebody that says, what would I get when I join your team?
Yeah. So the admin now with the Gorgeous Florida Homes, we have a well-trained admin. They do have to pay for her, if they use her, and they pay her directly. That's not part of my value proposition.
Okay.
What they get, we're actually in downtown St. Augustine, at least the headquarters of the team. So if they happen to be in St. Augustine, they have a really nice office to go to, which some people enjoy. Even if they don't go, they like to be able to go to have meetings or closings or things like that. We have weekly meetings every Monday that's normally training on a very high level topic. They have access to all of my training that they don't have to then pay for. Because like I said, I have a lot of training courses that are not necessarily inexpensive courses, or, I have some, but they don't have to pay for any of that. They have all our branding. We have a whole suite of templates for just about everything that we've created on brand with us that they access. Most of it's through Canva. A back end where we share referrals and things like that. So it's more kind of plugging into an established, I don't want to say brand, because a lot of them have actually kind of branded themselves on top of the Gorgeous Florida Homes network, but they've made it kind of cohesive together. But then they don't have to go create an amazing listing presentation or an amazing expired program or an amazing social, like they just have access to all of that. Excuse me. And then like my list of favorite vendors and the best pricing on those things. But I think a lot of it is the training, the community, the camaraderie, and that they're not all off by themselves. It can be very lonely, even when you're a very successful top producer and you're having to create all of this stuff by yourself and, figure it out by yourself. I am a broker associate. I owned my own brokerage for 5 years. Like I said, I managed Sotheby's for 8 years. So while I tell everybody very clearly up front, I am not the broker in charge here, but I can answer a lot of questions. So I do help, like I make myself fairly available, negotiation questions, tough questions. So I think that brings a lot of people value too, because they realize they're not on their own out there, figuring out when they have a tough negotiation question, they have a tough pricing or valuation situation. I think that there's a lot of value to that too. It's a comfort for some people.
Yeah, I love that. So if you look back at when you started your team and somebody comes to you today and they say, hey, I think I want to start a team. Aside from don't put your name in the team name, what's that other one piece of advice that you would give them to help them start launching that team?
I'm going to give you two pieces of advice.
Okay, great. I'll take as much as you give me, but I only ask for it, but I'll take as much as you give me.
The main, I think I would tell somebody, I would say, really think about where are you trying to get, not just solving your current problem, which normally the current problem is too much business coming in, not enough time to handle it. That's your current problem. But really, don't just jump to think being a team leader is the only solution to that problem, because that's what most people do. Mm-hmm. Most people think, and being a team leader is a totally different skill set than being a top producer. Totally different skill set. It is not always the right solution for some people, both in how they interact with people and what they have to offer other people, and what feeds them and what lights them up and what gets them excited. So really think about, where do you want to be? What does that look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and craft into that and be very honest with yourself. What do I really want out of this? Because that's one of the biggest things I've seen is people just jump into team leadership, literally just thinking, okay, I've got all this other business and I'm going to find a whole bunch of people who are just like me, but they're willing to, take business at whatever split you come up with. And then they're upset when the people aren't just like them, and they haven't really clearly spelled out the expectations on both sides. And then so I would just say, be very honest with yourself. Where do you want to get to? And be honest with yourself. Is team leadership, because it is a whole different thing. Team leadership is training, it's mentoring, it's supporting, it's bringing people up, it's dealing with the sometimes sad thing when somebody doesn't work out or somebody isn't loyal or somebody stabs you in the back. There's all those things that you don't have when you're just on your own. And some people are really good at that. I realize I don't like managing other people at all. I don't like that. Is just not, I realize that is not my skill set. I have not put on this earth to do that. And I would rather give people really good training and let them rise up into whatever they want to be themselves without expectations from me. And so that's why I say, really figure out what you want for yourself, what's your skill set, what do you want to build upon, what do you want to get rid of? And it may or may not be a team. It might be a loose affiliation of partnerships. It might be a really great admin and a bunch of VAs. There's a whole different thing. Team leadership does not have to be the only next step up. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, be super, super, super clear with your team agreements. What do you expect from them? What are they going to get from you? And try to think out all the kind of at least one or two steps beyond that. Meaning, you give a team member a buyer, great. You get X% as the team leader, great. What happens if that buyer buys 2 or 3 other properties? What happens if that buyer sells something? What if they are on both sides, just like a referral? But be very clear. What if they sell their own property? What if they sell their mom's property? All those things, because it's almost, like I said, my whole 4 years at Sotheby's in that executive vice president position, almost always the vice is like going to marital mediation between a team leader and a team member. almost always would never have even existed if they had an agreement up front, because there's not so many surprises in real estate, but a lot of team leaders just jumped into team leadership, said, great, you seem like a really ambitious person and I need somebody, so come on over. And that person's like, great, really successful person, okay. And this person is thinking that team leader is going to make them themselves. This person thinks they're going to alleviate their pain. They don't have a discussion, and then something happens and somebody's upset that had it just been spelled out in agreement. Again, there's 10, 15 possible eventualities and different things, and if you spell it all out and you agree up front, then you don't have the problems. But what happens is people have a transaction comes up and this one is thinking one thing, this one is thinking another thing, and all of a sudden we're close to closing or having problems and super mad at each other. So just spell everything out. Even in partnerships or loose partnerships, just spell everything out. Try to really do the hard work up front. When you're happy with each other, it will resolve so many problems.
I love that. So recap, 2 pieces of advice were really know why you're building it and where you want to take it in the future, right? Don't just build a team because you've got an overflow of business right now that can really come back to bite you. And then secondly, have a very clearly documented agreement with your team members as to what splits are going to be, what happens with returning clients that was a team lead beforehand, and mom's property. Yeah, such great practical piece of advice that I probably could have used when I first
And
started.
don't give away the farm to get team members on board with you. Mm-hmm. This is one of the things I see. New team members and small indie owner brokers who are new to brokerage often feel they have to give away the farm to get people on board. And now they end up with so many expenses and so much time drain that what they've built is actually costing them money, especially an opportunity time loss with now they can't work with their own clients and they're in these deals. And then how do you go back and say, oh, that deal doesn't work for me anymore? Like, that's a huge thing too. Don't give away the farm. Grow slowly with the right thing that can grow with your expenses and your expectations and your time drain to make sure it's a win-win, because that's the other thing I normally see team leaders really struggle with. They've given away too much. And when we're talking about how did I get the team members to move with me, I see so many team leaders try to make decisions by committee about what they are going to do. Well, the team members are going to have, they're in a different place. You've got to decide what's right for you, and then very graciously and very calmly explain that. This is why it's right for me. I understand it may or may not be right for you. This is why I think it is good for you, but let's talk about it. But when you go to team members to help you make decisions, they don't have the same view as you. They're not you. And I've seen so many team leaders make decisions that are ultimately not good for them because they made decision by committee, and often with people who, ultimately in a year or two, they're no longer with them. And now they've made, so it's so much bigger of a conversation than most people think when they get into team leadership. Yeah. There's so many more levels of somebody should have to, I don't know, go to a team leader creation school.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. I forget who I heard say this, but I love this thought that I've saved. And it was that if your team doesn't serve you as the business owner, then why are you doing it? Right. And ultimately, I think when you start a team, and it goes back to why am I building this? It has to be built off the premise that it serves you, your business, what your goals, what you're trying to get to. That doesn't mean that it's a selfish endeavor.
Right.
But
absolutely.
Ultimately, if it doesn't serve me and my needs and it's not profitable, then why would I do it? Why would you do it? Right. So it's such a great little nugget. what other things should team leaders be thinking about as they start to structure their teams? What are some things that you saw what's one thing you saw a team leader do that you thought, wow, that's great. It's not good. Maybe it wasn't right for your business, but you thought that's such a great value to give somebody that maybe it didn't even cost any money. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I think at the end of the day, if we're in real estate, we love recognition, right? We do. And I've seen some team leaders just do really, really great job of recognizing their team members' successes publicly. They had their first sale, they had their highest sale, they had this much. If you're at a capping company, they cap, they iconed if they're at that. Team leaders who really do a great job to not just be about themselves, and really highlight the successes as of individual team. And a lot of team leaders sometimes get scared to do that because they're like, they come from a place of scarcity rather than abundance. So they're like, oh, I don't want to build this person up because, they're going to go off and be my competition. But when I see team leaders do a great job of really celebrating the successes of their team members, maybe even having an annual team event. We try to do stuff here in with Gorgeous Florida Homes Network, at least every few months. That's sometimes fun. Maybe it's a cocktail event at one of our listings in the evening that's just for agents, or something fun. Like we live in St. Augustine, which is historic. So we like to do a lot of fun stuff like a ghost tour or a pirate ship tour or stuff like that. So I think that's, remember your people on your team are individuals too, with their own hopes and dreams and goals too. They're not just there to serve you. And I'm not saying that's what everybody thinks, but I do see a lot of team leaders kind of think they're just going to get a bunch of, minions.
Yeah.
And that's not what team leadership is about. That's not leadership. That's something else.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think if you think you're just going to get a bunch of minions, that makes you a manager, and
right.
That maybe that's your business model, right? For some people, it absolutely is,
and for some people that is. So absolutely, for some people that is, and for some people they're totally good with that too. And that just goes back to making sure that you're. First, I think that you should not work with every person who comes to you. Mm-hmm. Like you should have a proper interviewing, vetting process to make sure they're a good fit for you. You're a good fit for them. That's another thing I see happen with team leaders all the time. Or they see somebody who's newer to real estate. They're very enthusiastic. They're very sharp. They're very go-getter. And the team leader thinks, oh, they're going to be great for my team because they want to basically get as much as they can off that person, so to speak. But then they sometimes don't realize that is going to be your competition in 2 years. You can tell sometimes some people are very happy to be a team member. They want a leader. That's important to them, and they want to stay on a team forever. And then you have some people, they want to be their own top producer in a few years or their own team leader in a few years. And if you're in the business and want to train people up and get them out of the nest and wish them well, that's good. But you've also got to be mindful that if you see that kind of sizzling talent, be thoughtful to yourself. Okay, is this going to be a person who in a few years I'm going to spend all my time training them and then they're going to want to fly the nest? Nothing wrong with that, but just be aware that that's a possibility.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you got to be aware and decide whether or not that's your business model or not, right? And I think that's what's so cool about building a team is that it literally can look like whatever you want it to. For me, I do want to build a team where we teach people how to fish and we help launch their career, right? Maybe we help them get their first couple of deals done through the extra surplus business that we have. But I tell everyone, I have some leads, but I don't have a guarantee of how many you'll get because I would much rather teach you how to find your own business than just give you business. Because if you really want to do
and that's
this
how I
business,
was too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because if they want to do it, they're going to need to figure that out on their own. And chances are they won't do it the exact same way I will. And so can I give them access to the right resources to help them cultivate that business? So I love that. That's so good. we've had about 40 minutes, so we're kind of running out of time. And thank you so much for spending this time with me. Any other final thoughts that you'd want to impart to someone that is leading a team and looking to grow or is thinking about starting a team?
I would just definitely step back for a minute, think about where do you want to be. And it's not being selfish, because we have only one of us. And in whatever else in our lives, if we have children, significant others, hobbies, whatever like that, it is not being selfish, especially if we have family at home still. It is not being selfish to try to find something that fits that, because you don't want to be taking time and energy and bandwidth away from your family and your loved ones to support a team that doesn't support you in the way that you had envisioned. So just try to be super thoughtful, and don't think that that traditional rainmaker team leader model is a one size fits all. I think that teams or networks or groups are the way that real estate is going to continue to evolve, because it makes a lot of sense. But in very, very many different permutations based on really at the end of the day, what does the founder or the team leader want, and how can they all together with 1 or 2 or 10 or 100 other people kind of grow together and support each other in what they each want. But it takes thoughtfulness to put that together the right way. And like I said, what I see a lot of times is people just kind of reactionarily make decisions as they go forward based on their needs of today or this month, rather than be more thoughtful.
Yeah.
Maybe we just came up with a new business model. It's like a 3-month deep dive working with somebody before they create a team, so we can help them get to where they want to go in the shortest path forward.
100%. And I know I've made changes in my team. Like when I first started my team, I felt like I really had to justify why I would be taking so much on a split. And so, I said, well, I'll give you a vanity domain email, right? And so I'll give you an email from my domain. And it turns out I was, started to spend over $250 a month on emails that people didn't need, and they weren't even really using it that much, right? They were using it because I gave it to them.
I did that too. I reeled back a bunch of emails.
So we, this month, actually, we're canceling just about all, like 90% of the emails will be deleted.
I did too. That is one of the things that the cost to be a good team leader of any kind is very high. And you have those costs most of the time, month after month after month, whether your folks are selling anything or not. And so that's what I'm saying, that you've got to really understand what you want, what's the best way to get there with your interests, your skill sets, your passions, things like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Do you have any questions for me? I don't want to just take knowledge. Do you have any questions for me or about me? I'm happy to share. We'll probably edit this part out. Nobody really cares. Yeah. I'm in Orlando. So I'm in Orlando. And we primarily service investors. I mean, that's been the niche of my business since I got started, is helping out-of-state investors buy rentals and Disney short-term rentals. Oh, cool. So that's kind of been my niche.
Oh, cool.
And this year we're trying to figure out how we can get more sellers. And most importantly this year, focusing on more video content to try to create organic, passive clients or passive prospecting, right? I'm sure Levi Lassac, because he's really popular right now within EXP. But his partner, Travis Plum, is in my upline. I think he's my number 5. Okay. And so I'm familiar with their strategy, but I'm not really a video guy. I certainly don't want to sit down and edit any videos. But I'm fortunate. I had a gentleman that I know reach out to me last year who is a video guy and actually has joined me at EXP. And so we're going to form a partnership where he helps me do all the production stuff and I'll do all the sales stuff. So we're going to try to shift that way this year. That and using biggerpockets.com, which is the world's largest real estate investor website in the world. And I generate a lot of organic business through there, along with we do the paid leads through there as well, and we've gotten a decent return. But you got to like working with investors, and more importantly, you got to have deals to put in front of them. So, it's been challenging. But yeah, we're here, and we love helping people buy, sell, or invest. So
awesome. I got to jump off now. I got to jump on the Electric Advisory Council meeting, but thank you so much for having me on, and I appreciate you and looking forward to connecting more.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Leads and Leverage. I hope you found our conversation insightful and actionable. Remember, success in real estate is not just about transactions. It's about the relationships you build, the teams you lead, and the impact you make in the lives of others. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay connected with our community of real estate leaders and entrepreneurs, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us bring you more valuable content and guests. Don't forget to visit our website, gpghome.com/leads and leverage for additional resources, show notes, and exclusive updates. You can also follow me on Instagram at real_Tyler Gibson to join the conversation and connect with like-minded individuals. See you next week.